Hello everyone, welcome to Let's Grapple episode 4 on the Too Sweet Cosplay YouTube channel. My name is STVO and I'm the host of this show, and I'm going to be talking about wrestling topics as well as a young Ultimate Warrior cosplay. That was an episode of SmackDown 2 weeks back where we're going to get a little more information about that cosplayer that we saw on the hard camera side, front row. There's a nice little story we're going to share about him, and we're going to answer your questions that you submitted. So before we begin the show, I want to give a shout out to Drew DeSocio of the Ringside Roster. He just launched a show called Wrestling on the Go on the Wrestling on the Go YouTube channel. You can find more info on therinsideroster.com about the show. I'm going to be joining him on the next episode, and we're going to do some more wrestling discussion in addition to me being on the YouTube channel. And also, there's going to be more wrestling discussion there too. And in addition, I want to also give a shout out to Mud Nation Belts. They've made some great custom belts. Johnny Mudd is a good guy. Head over to the Mud Nation Belts Facebook page, Instagram, or Twitter page to get a quote, and if you use promo code TSC20, you save 20% off your order. He makes a lot of great belts. You can see those on the Too Sweet Cosplay pages as well as the Mud Nation Belts YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages as well. So without further ado, let's get the show started. Today's topic is going to be the state of the current WWE champions. There are a total of 16 different championship belts in the WWE, which to my knowledge is one of the most, it is the most titles they've had currently active on the roster in the history as far as I know. I mean, I'm also including brands such as NXT UK, 205 Live, NXT, and then of course the main rosters of Raw and SmackDown. So I'm going to get to the bottom of those. Obviously, I'm going to be talking in more detail about some titles versus the others. So I don't watch too much NXT aside from the TakeOver specials and the occasional episode. I really don't watch NXT UK too much. And then 205 Live, I really don't watch it all that much. I know that those are underrated workhorse shows. And, as big of a fan of wrestling as I am, it's hard to cram in everything into 1 week, especially if you have 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, and then you command other wrestling. It can be a little tough, especially if you work a full-time job. You have other interests outside of wrestling, but I do what I can to make sure I follow as much as I can, and I'm here to talk about the titles and the current state they are. So starting off with NXT, we got Johnny Gargano, current NXT champion. He's the first ever Triple Crown champion of NXT, meaning he's held the NXT championship, the North American title, as well as the tag team titles with Tommaso Ciampa back when they were DIY. So that being said, I think Gargano is a great champion. He and Adam Cole put on a hell of a match at the last TakeOver pay-per-view. He's called Johnny Wrestling for a reason. He's definitely carrying the NXT brand very far, so I think he's a great champion. And I kind of hope he does come to the main roster soon. He's been on NXT for years, so here's hoping for bigger and better things to come. But for right now, he makes a great face of the NXT brand. The next person we're going to talk about is Shayna Baszler, two-time women's champion in NXT, the current NXT women's champion, obviously. She's very good. She's very tough. She looks like a fighting lady, and she has the Ronda Rousey Association. She's been in MMA. She's a legit tough girl. I am very surprised she did retain the title at NXT TakeOver in New York. I was very surprised that she retained. I thought that maybe she would have dropped to Bianca Belair or Io Shirai, but that looks like it wasn't in the plan. So she's going to be the face of the women's division for a while. How she loses that title, I'm not very sure. The next person is the Velveteen Dream. He's the NXT North American Champion. That guy oozes charisma. He has the potential to be the next Rock. I don't know if he'll make it big in Hollywood, obviously, with all the movies The Rock's producing these days and how big of a mainstream megastar he is. But I do see a lot of potential in him if they, don't misuse him on the main roster. I think he has a lot of great potential. He's a great champion. He could make the NXT North American title akin to what the Intercontinental title was back in the 80s and the 90s, where it's the workhorse title, where you see guys like Mr. Perfect, the British Bulldog, Bret Hart hold that title. It's on its way to have some great lineage in NXT, and I think that the Dream is going to help keep it alive by being a great champion, and hopefully one day he'll be an NXT champion, and then one day he'll do some amazing things on the main roster. Just keep at it, Velveteen. I think that great things are going to come for you. And then there's the NXT Tag Team Champions. It's a vacated championship. The War Raiders, now known as the Viking Raiders, who are briefly known as the Viking Experience. I mean, there was memes and jokes for weeks on that. They're now on the main roster of Raw. They join Paige, Sasha Banks, Kevin Owens as active NXT champions that make the jump over to the main roster while they're champions. So, to my knowledge, it never happened with the Tag Team Championship, so this is the first time it's happening. Obviously, I can't talk too much more about the titles because there's no active champions, but the War Raiders were a great tag team in NXT. They tore down the house with Aleister Black and Ricochet. They had a great match at TakeOver. I do think they'll do some great things on the main roster. Right now, they're kind of in a laughing stock mode just because they have had the 2 name changes already, so I hope they'll recover from it. The Viking Raiders name, not the best name they can give them. In a perfect world, they would just remain the War Raiders, or I know some people want them to go back to War Machine, but you gotta make do. I'm hoping that things will get better for them, and then I don't know who I'd want to be the next NXT Tag Team Champions, but hopefully they'll find some team suitable replacements. Maybe the Street Profits, I don't really know. I guess we'll find out in the coming weeks, huh? I'll briefly talk about the NXT UK division. I honestly don't know too much about it. I remember Pete Dunne and Walter's match at TakeOver. That sounded great, and it looks like Walter is going to be having a stable over in NXT UK. Maybe the episode's already aired. If it hasn't, I'm going to try to keep it quiet. I mean, if you've been following it on social media, the chances are good you likely know what has happened with that particular stable, but Walter has a great look of a champion. I think he could do some great things for that division. Toni Storm, she is the current NXT UK Women's Champion. I've seen her during the Evolution pay-per-view and a little on the Mae Young Classic. She is a good wrestler. She has an awesome look to her. I think she carries herself very well as a champion, so I can't say too much more about her, but I think she's pretty solid. And I'm going to be brutally honest, I'm not too familiar with the NXT UK champions of James Drake and Zach Gibson. I really can't comment on them. I haven't seen too much with them. I know they took the titles off of they defeated Mustache Mountain to be the inaugural champion, so that's really all I can say about that. I'm not going to get too much further. Going on to 205 Live, you got Tony Nese as the Cruiserweight Champion. Nese has always been an impressive wrestler. I mean, there's hardly a weak talent over in 205 Live. I can't really complain too much. I just really don't watch the show much. WWE doesn't give me much of a reason to care. Yes, they have great wrestling now. I hear Triple H has fixed the show since. But usually when I tune in, I'm just like, they do have some good moves. You'll see some good surprise matches here and there, but not a whole lot going on. So that's really all I can say. I guess until the next pay-per-view on the main roster they show up on, I'll see them then. So now that we got all the training grounds and the side divisions done, let's go on to the main roster of champions. We have the Raw Tag Team Champions, a team that is, you know, they're usually not winning too many matches. Kurt Hawkins himself had a bit of a losing streak until he won the WrestleMania pre-show match. It's him and Zack Ryder as the Raw Tag Team Champions. Unfortunately, I mean, they're talented superstars. They seem like good people, but I kind of hope they drop those titles soon, be it to the Usos, be it back to the Revival. They're not credible champions. The Raw tag titles have been kind of in a slump ever since Braun Strowman and Nicholas won them at last year's WrestleMania to the Bar. It just hasn't been the same, so I'm just waiting for a credible champions to hold the Raw Red titles of the tag division. I think that division does need a lot of help, so hopefully the Usos will be shaping it up. I know there's been a lot of comedic crap with the whole Revival. They had the Usi Hot the Usi Hot stuff for their back and jock straps. It's childish comedy. I mean, there were some laughable moments, but it's just like let's have them do a real feud, please. And okay, so the next ones is actually newly crowned tag team champions as of this recording. Tuesday, Shane McMahon was originally going to be giving the new Daniel Bryan and Eric Rowan the SmackDown tag team titles because Matt and Jeff Hardy vacated them. Shane was just going to rule them to champions. He wasn't going to do a tournament. He wasn't going to do a battle royal or gauntlet match. He was just going to reward the heels the tag titles. And part of the wild card, which I'll be discussing a little more later on the show, the wild card had the Usos come down and say they want the titles back, which, I mean, it would make sense for them to do it because they were the tag team champions before the Hardy Boys did take the titles from them. Poor Jeff got injured, so he's out of action for now, but Daniel Bryan and Eric Rowan successfully defeated the Usos, and they're now the SmackDown Tag Champs. I mean, yeah, I know Daniel Bryan was the world champion, and they're kind of looking for a new footing, so hey, I think that him being the top heel in the tag division, having Eric Rowan be his bodyguard, and them holding some gold for a while, I think that'll be fine. I think it'll be interesting to see how they handle this and who's going to be challenging them for those tag titles for a while. But I think that they'll have a good heel team running the division for a while in the SmackDown Tag Team division. The next champions I want to talk about is the United States champion, Samoa Joe. You know, I mean, all things considered, maybe it's not the best championship reign. It's not like John Cena when he was the U.S. champion, where he was doing open challenges every week against exciting new competitors. But he's doing a good job. I'm enjoying the Rey Mysterio feud he's having with Dominic getting involved and Joe just making threats, looking like a badass. He beat Rey Mysterio under a minute at WrestleMania. It looks like they have a match coming up at Money in the Bank. The U.S. Championship will be on the line. I think they'll have a pretty solid match. Ray might win it off him at Money in the Bank. I'm not really sure, but I wouldn't rule it out. So I guess time will tell, but I guess all things considered, his championship rating hasn't been too bad. I think that things could have been much worse. The R-Truth title reign before him was ridiculous, and then we saw Nakamura and Rusev passing the titles back and forth. Unfortunately, neither man had a recent memorable reign with that. Nakamura, his 2 U.S. title reigns were pretty forgettable, unfortunately, but Joe's kind of helping it in the right direction, so we'll see how much longer he holds it for. The next guy I want to talk about is the Demon, Finn Balor. He's the current Intercontinental Champion. He's already a 2-time champion. So far, at least, he's been having good matches. He had the matches against Andrade Almas. Andrade got a non-title victory over him. And in return, Finn Balor got a victory over Andrade in return. And he beat Bobby Lashley as the Demon at WrestleMania to win back the Intercontinental Championship for the second time around. I mean, it's been about a month after WrestleMania, and I know it's kind of weird we haven't had a pay-per-view within this time frame. It's not going to be until not next Sunday, but the Sunday after next. We're going to see we're going to have Money in the Bank, and Finn Balor won't be defending the title there, as he is going to be one of the participants from the SmackDown side in the Money in the Bank match for the men's match. So time will tell if Finn will win the briefcase. I'm leaning towards him probably not winning, but we'll see what happens with that, as well as any further matches he has under the Intercontinental Championship title reign that he's currently in. The next person we're going to be talking about is the WWE champion, Kofi Kingston. He's been a solid champion. I mean, I was planning on doing a video on Sunday to kind of complain about him a little bit, but I think that this week, with Raw and SmackDown in the books, I think they did a pretty solid job. He did 2 title defenses. One was a rematch against Daniel Bryan. I know that WWE claims they're not going to do the rematch clause anymore, but I guess they knocked it out of the way on Raw, so they wouldn't have to do it again at a pay-per-view. The next one was he had a match against former WWE champion and current Universal title contender AJ Styles, as well as Sami Zayn. He defended the title against both men, 2 Raw guys on SmackDown today, as of this recording. And they put on a hell of a match. Kevin Owens tried to get involved to help Sami Zayn win that particular match, but it was not successful, and Kofi ended up retaining. So yeah, they've been doing a good job with him winning his matches, and they've made him look strong as a champion going out. The only thing that I would say negative about him is I think that he probably should try to move a little away from the New Day branding. I'm not saying that the stable needs to break up or he needs to start having a feud with Xavier, Big E. I don't think that's necessary. But I think maybe not doing the pancake themes as much, except for like maybe the occasional reunions with New Day, or just having maybe his own gear. Maybe just trying something a little different, not as flashy. And I would say, unless he's in a tag team match with the New Day or a 3-on-3 match, maybe he should have his own music. I'm not saying go back to the SOS theme that he used to do with the Jamaican music, but maybe something a little different. I don't know. I'm not a music composer, but I think that maybe he could have his own solo theme. Maybe they could mix the New Day theme and make it something a little different, but I don't know. Overall, I mean, as long as he's winning matches and stays champion for a while, I think his title reign's going well. I would still suggest trying to differentiate him from the New Day a little bit in some way, but this week actually improved my opinion a little bit. I was ready to say, okay, they got to do this overhaul, but I mean, if he's winning matches and looking good winning them, then that's a pretty solid sign of him as a good champion. So the next champion we're going to discuss is the Universal Championship champion himself, Seth Rollins. He defeated Brock Lesnar, so that's pretty solid. That's a pretty big rub on him to make him look like he's $1 million. I really can't complain about it, so yeah, I think Seth Rollins is a solid champion. He did take a pinfall defeat to Baron Corbin, but that was more of a tag team match and miscommunication with his upcoming rival AJ Styles, who was his tag team partner. Yeah, that's kind of like the same old thing. They tried to do, strange bedfellows matches. These two are going to have a pay-per-view match against each other soon. So let's put them in another tag team match where they're probably going to not get along. So yeah, it's kind of the same old thing, but I mean, that's not the one that books it. I'd say he looks pretty solid. It's going to be interesting to see how good of a match he and AJ are going to have. I'm very confident that's going to be a great match. I think that it will be a great match, and it'll be interesting to see if Seth or AJ wins. I'm more of an AJ fan. I like them both, don't get me wrong. But I don't think Seth should be dropping the title anytime too soon. So, time will tell. The final person is she's a double champion. Becky 2 belts herself, the man, Becky Lynch. She holds the Raw Women's Championship title, and she holds the SmackDown Championship title. So, I don't know. She's been built as a very big star. Has her momentum cooled down a little bit? Yeah, I would say a little bit. I mean, I don't know. They're making it not as high profile as it was before when building into WrestleMania and even the months prior to WrestleMania. I think that's been cooled down a bit, and perhaps part of it is because her opponent Lacey on the Raw side is, a little too new. I mean, she's been doing some very good promo work. Her social media posts are very funny too, and she's not a bad wrestler if you've ever seen her stuff. She put on a pretty solid match against Natalya on Raw a few weeks back, and she's trying to really make herself stand out as a heel. I think she's doing a solid job. Now, if I want to see her be the champion after Money in the Bank's done, I'm not against it entirely. I think maybe wait a bit, but I don't know. I do think that Becky herself, however, does need to lose one of the titles at least. I think she should remain a champion of either Raw or SmackDown. If it was my decision, I'd keep her the champion of Raw. And, maybe Bayley, Ember Moon, or somebody cashes in on her from the SmackDown side, and then she gets stuck on Raw while Bayley or Charlotte steps up and beats the top lady of SmackDown. But there needs to be a little direction. And also, I am getting a little tired of Becky and Charlotte matches. They've all had great matches. They've been going on since August of last year, and you thought that the final culmination would be at SummerSlam, but here we are at Money in the Bank. We're going to get one more match with them at least. I don't think Charlotte will defeat her for that title, like I said. I think my opinion hasn't changed. I think that Becky will retain both titles, and either a Raw woman or a SmackDown woman, whoever wins the Money in the Bank, will cash in on her, but only earn one of the titles. And then they're going to take it to that title, and that's finally how the Becky 2 belts thing ends. I mean, I think it was a nice little angle touch. We haven't really seen a champion hold 2 brands' titles and have to defend on both. Either the champion wins both belts and they're unified and has to defend them both to one person, or else they're only the champion of one show. But this is a little bit different, so I do applaud WWE for trying something a little different and having it be Becky 2 belts going to both Raw and SmackDown to defend. But I think it's time for her to be on just one brand. Although the wild card thing changes everything, because depending who's selected to be on a show, they could be on a show twice in the week, in 1 week. Maybe more. We'll see what happens with that, but we'll talk about that more a little later, as we're going to be going on to the next topic, which is a cosplayer I'm going to be showcasing. Check out these photos. I'm going to give you a little more of an explanation after you see these. Check them out. Alright, so with those photos being shown, it's a young Ultimate Warrior cosplayer, and his father, Phil Leuking, saw my post of Spot That Cosplay on the Too Sweet Cosplay social media pages, and he was the father of that adorable young Ultimate Warrior. And I got to talk to him a little bit, and he told me quite a story. So in addition to them cosplaying him as Hulk Hogan, his son as the Ultimate Warrior, and various other adorable little costumes, wrestling and non-wrestling, he had some good stuff to say. So I do want to share a little of that before we move on to the question and answer section. After seeing the photos, here's some things I wanted to ask. So tell us about yourselves. How long have you been a wrestling fan, and what age did your son get into it? So he says he's a single father with a 7-year-old who is the boy in the photos, and he has a 2-year-old daughter as well. He always loved dressing up his kids for Halloween, and it's carried over into pro wrestling. And something I did want to note is the young Ultimate Warrior, he does have T1D, type 1 diabetes, which in short, it's a chronic condition in which the pancreas produces little or no insulin. Treatment can help, however, the condition can't be cured, and it requires medical diagnosis. So I asked Phillip here, when the doctors said no more wrestling, unfortunately they did tell him, his son, that he wouldn't be able to do any more amateur wrestling. I said, what made them want to continue to pursue it despite doctors advising against it? The answer was that when the doctor told them they were diagnosed, and it's not good for kids, he said he recommended them taking up golf. Phillip said that pissed him off because he sucks at golf. The doctors and nurses would refer to his diagnosis as a disease, and he corrected them, saying that it's not a disease, it's a challenge. Yeah, I mean, it can be. And then Phillip says that he made sure the son would hear me make the correction. His son is intense and competitive. He's in the 1st grade, and he's doing a lot of good. In the photo, you could see that he's had like a lot of victories in his wrestling, so he definitely is doing very well there. Let's see. Oh yeah. He started calling his son a little warrior, and and then he took up the character of great significance to him in the lives. And the Ultimate Warrior was a character that he did enjoy in the wrestling games on the PlayStation, and it just kind of grew to be one of his son's favorite characters, so it just kind of sticks with him. So not only does he cosplay the Warrior, he is the Warrior, the character of the Warrior, because he has that warrior spirit. So I'm very proud of him. That's very cool. He's a cosplayer, he's an amateur wrestler, and he's just a strong little individual. Phillip, I really appreciate you sharing that story with us and being able to get the word out. I do enjoy positive stories of cosplay as well as pro wrestling, as those are some things that I really do enjoy. And the final thing I did want to share was that his favorite wrestlers include the Ultimate Warrior, who we obviously mentioned, and he cosplays, John Cena, Roman Reigns, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Bayley, current WWE champion Kofi Kingston, Kane, and Undertaker. And actually, the next time they go to a WWE show, it looks like he wants to dress up as the Undertaker. So I think that would be pretty cool. And how he discovered the post that I made of Spot the Cosplay on Too Sweet Cosplay, he received a lot of texts saying that his son was all over social media, and he happened to find the post on Twitter, and he tweeted at us showing that. And I'm glad that he got to interact with Roman Reigns. So if any of you see any photos of the young warrior with Roman Reigns, please send it our way so we can let Phillip know about those photos. He'd like to actually get some photos printed of that moment, and I completely understand, and maybe have some of them framed. So that is the story of the young Ultimate Warrior. I thank you again, Phillip, for sharing the story, and I hope all of you here watching have enjoyed it. So I appreciate those words and appreciate discussing that. So now with that said, we're going to get to the final portion of this episode, and it's the Q&A. So we have two questions from Drew DeSocio of the RingsideRoster.com. I'm going to go over them right now. So the first question is, what should WWE do with Lars Sullivan? That's a good question. So far, I'd say they're doing him a good job. They're building him up as a strong badass on the main roster. I mean, right now he's dealing with a feud with R-Truth, who's not been booked the best. I mean, yeah, he's a former U.S. champion, but you wouldn't really know it with how he's been currently booked. But yeah, I mean, that's going to be like a easy pre-show pay-per-view victory for Lars, I'm sure, coming up. And it looks like he might even be having a feud with Matt Hardy because he kind of took off both him and Jeff after the announcement of the vacating of the titles. I think that first Lars will do a full-on defeat of R-Truth, then move on to Matt, then we'll see what happens. With Lars, what they should do next is, I don't know, maybe he can defeat Finn Balor for the Intercontinental Championship. I don't know if I'd push him right away for the WWE Championship. I think that it's very possible the WWE could have him defeat Kofi and become the new WWE Champion. I mean, that's how you do establish a star. I mean, that's how Brock Lesnar was made to be the big name he is today. They just pushed him to the moon and back. They made him a big, legitimate name. He never lost like single matches until shortly after he was WWE Champion. He defeated The Rock, but then he lost the title to The Big Show. But that build all the way to the defeat of The Rock was huge. He defeated Hulk Hogan, defeated Rob Van Dam, defeated the Hardy Boys, etc. If they really are serious about keeping Lars as big of a name as they've been pushing, I would say do the same. Make sure that you keep pushing him and just having big defeats. Maybe have him defeat Finn Balor for the IC title and then challenge whoever the next world champion is. And after he defeats that champion, he just drops the IC title and becomes a legit tough guy. But it could very well fizzle like Snitsky. They treated him like he was going to become a big star, and then that kind of fizzled away. Time will tell with Lars. I'm kind of 50-50 on it myself, but what they're doing right now is just fine, and we'll see where they go with it from there. The next question is, what do I think of the WWE Wildcard rule? I think it's pretty silly, to be honest. It almost feels like they're already, they just had the big superstar shakeup. They hyped up, okay, we have new superstars on these shows. Now they're all going back to get to their old shows. Roman Reigns already back on Raw. AJ Styles is back on SmackDown. I mean, obviously these are supposed to be one-night things, and they're kind of enforcing the rules that, okay, if too many superstars break the rules by appearing on shows that they're not been assigned to, that they could get fines or possibly fired. So that's going to bring up an interesting theme. I mean, it looks like they're really trying to do something different, but at the same time, it's almost like they want to just end the brand split, which if they do, then just do it already. Unify some titles. Unify some titles. Just have people appear on the shows. Get the right people that will please the USA Network and Fox on the shows. Supposedly Fox and USA are kind of pushing WWE just to end the brand split so they can get the big name wrestlers on their shows for when SmackDown moves to Fox and when USA only has Raw. They want to have the best possible show and they need the best possible stars. So with that being said, I don't know if this concept is going to work out, the wild card rule. I guess if they want to try to be innovative, how about they have people interact with stars from one another's show, but they can't always have each other's backs. I would say maybe form a stable. Like, let's say, for example, let's say Sami Zayn and Bobby Lashley become allies on Raw because they're both heels, and then they come visit SmackDown the next week, and they become buddy-buddy with Kevin Owens and I don't know, let's say Elias. They kind of have an ultimate stable going, and maybe here and there, Kevin Owens will appear on Raw and help Sami Zayn defeat the U.S. champion. Maybe he defeats Samoa Joe because Kevin Owens and Bobby Lashley both help him out, or even Bobby Lashley and Sami Zayn help Kevin Owens defeat Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship. Do something like that. I suggested a while ago they do that with the Undisputed Era. 2 members go to Raw, 2 to SmackDown. This rule would have worked perfectly for them. They could have used it to their advantage. Maybe they could have got fined here and there because members would appear on nights that they weren't allowed to be there, and so forth. I mean, overall, I'm not optimistic on this new rule. I think it's kind of silly, but if they play their cards right, they might be able to work something into it and make it work. But they got to be creative. They got to be creative with this idea. So time will tell if that works. So that's enough for this episode of Let's Grapple. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please leave any comments and feedback in the comments section or on the social media pages. Make sure you follow Too Sweet Cosplay on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Come check out our other videos on the YouTube channel. If you have any cosplays you'd like to see featured in the next video, please let us know. And if there's any other content you think should be in these videos or on our social media pages, please let us know. I appreciate you all watching. Thank you very much. You all have a wonderful night.